Back home, and Indigenous women from Central Australia have been illustrating their country for a new children's book project aimed at improving literacy levels. They want the books to provide culturally relevant learning material along with documenting local languages. Janetta Quinn-Bates has more.
These children's books have been years in the making.
So we're writing these little books so we can preserve our language and teach our children culture and make it strong for future generation.
The books have been illustrated by Indigenous women using photos they've taken on their country for inspiration.
The project we've got running is called Anwerne Ingkerrekele Mpwareke, which means by us, for us. So it's basically, we've got a really strong group of Anwerne educators leading that program.
5 of the books were recently launched at the Northern Territory Writers' Festival in Alice Springs.
A project that's grown really slowly from, developing really DIY in-house booklets, printing them on the computer, laminating them in-house, and slowly that's sort of grown and become more professional over time.
They're designed to improve literacy skills among Indigenous children, with under a quarter of children from remote Indigenous areas reaching national minimum reading standards.
The resources are sort of drawn from the Anwerne curriculum that they're in the process of developing based on things that they determine as important for their kids to learn, like kinship, connection to country, history, culture.
But the cultural knowledge provided in the books will now be available for everyone to share. The books, written in Arrernte and Luritja languages, feature an index of word translations and English subtitles.
People want to come and live in Alice Springs, they're allowed to learn language and share our culture.
The women hope the 5 books will be the first of many more to come. Janetta Quinn-Bates, ABC News, Alice Springs.
Felicity Hayes is an Arrernte elder and children's ground cultural advisor who appeared in that story, and she joins me now from Alice Springs. Welcome to you this afternoon. Felicity, I hope you're able to hear me at the moment.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time. Firstly, can you tell us, where did the idea for these stories come from?
Well, the ideas of these stories came from us, like we went out bush with the kids, learning on country, and we take pictures, and then we come back and document what learning happened at bush, and then we make it into little books so children can read.
And we heard in that story that there is an interest in making sure that young Indigenous children retain a connection to country. Is that something that had been felt might have been lost a little over recent years?
No, like in our Arrernte language, we have always had a strong Arrernte connection to country, and so we are teaching our children to have strong connection to country as well.
And so primarily the series of stories is about improving young children's literacy. Is that literacy in traditional language as well as English?
Yes, it is.
Tell us about the challenges that children from your area have been experiencing with literacy to date.
Well, in school, children are not learning, because English is a foreign language for them, and our children have basically about 4 or 5 languages that they learn when they are babies, and going to school is really a different environment for our children.
And I understand that once upon a time it was actually banned to speak a traditional language at school in Alice Springs. Is that correct?
Yes, it was.
And so that must have it must have had a huge impact on children's ability to learn and retain language. Just tell us about that particular ban, how long it lasted, and what the impact overall has been in the community.
I think in those days when children were taken away from their families, our languages weren't allowed to be spoken by children and grandparents, so when children are taken away, it was all lost. And now we are trying to revitalise our education with their language, which is probably like good for our children to learn their own language.
And what's been the reaction to the stories so far?
I think it's getting better. I think we're moving on. Or I think we are moving forward.
And the children themselves, they do like the stories that you're telling?
Yeah, we tell stories in language. And we get children to, when we go out bush, we get children to talk about things like we had a little book there made by children about the sky. So you ask the children about the sky and what's in the sky. What you see up in the sky, they come up with clouds, sun, the rain, you know.
Felicity Hayes, what a terrific project. Thank you so much for coming on to explain it to us. All the best with it.
Thank you.